guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I am doing the Finally Fall book tag. I am one of those people where once it hits September 1st, it is pre-Halloween, it is pre-October. Y'all can't fight me on that because I have been that way since I was a child. Every year when it gets to September, I get so excited because Halloween is coming, and it's not because of just the holiday, but it's also my wedding anniversary. It'll be my 2-year wedding anniversary on Halloween. So this is a tag that was created a good few years ago. The original video is nowhere though to be found on YouTube. It is considered now a private video, so I have no idea who the actual creator of this tag was, but I basically pulled the questions from a Book Olives video, which is like 4 years old, mind you, but still works because the questions are all the same. But let's go ahead and get started. The first question is, in fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. Recently, the most vivid setting I've read is from Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shay Earnshaw, actually. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars when I read it here early on in the month of September, and this is so much fun because, I mean, it's a direct adaptation of the Nightmare Before Christmas story. It's a direct sequel where we are following Sally, who is having a really hard time with dealing with the fact that she is now Queen of Halloween Town. And in this story, we actually get to visit a bunch of the holiday towns that we only got a glimpse of in the movie. We get to see Valentine's Day Town. We get to see St. Patrick's Day Town. There's a whole new door that is revealed that we had never seen before that, you know, ends up being kind of like the catalyst for the main plot of the story. We get so many new snippets of areas and learn that there's even more doors past that. And I will say that this really does play on the kind of US holiday. It's not really indicative of other cultures and traditional holidays that are used throughout the world. The second question is, nature is beautiful, but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written, but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. First, I'm going to go with The Final Strife by Sarat El-Arifi, because Sila, one of our main characters, we find out very early on, is dealing with massive amounts of grief to the point where it leads to a drug addiction because of the fact that you learn she was involved in some kind of massacre, in the sense that a lot of the people she cared about and her family were killed, and she was one of the only survivors that were from there, and it's something that she deals with a lot because she puts a lot of blame on herself for what happened. And again, like I said, it leads to actually a drug addiction that you learn very quickly in the story, like within the first page of her story. Actually, after the prologue, you learn that she is addicted to what are called hobaces, which basically kind of what sound like pomegranate little aerials or whatever they're called, where they're like the little seeds. That's what it sounds like in terms of the size of them, and the juice is basically what is the drug. It basically acts as like a stimulant, and she relies on that very heavily to the point where it's actually very debilitating for her at one point. And like I said, the only reason she gets involved with that is because she's dealing with the grief and the loss that she had suffered 6 years prior to the story. 3 is fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. Oh gosh, I do not read nonfiction really ever. It is a genre that obviously I'm just not drawn towards all the time, but I will say that it is very important. There are a lot of really good nonfiction books, especially if you're looking to learn things that are very new. The closest thing though I will say is I did read a memoir very early on in September, and it was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Now I know that a lot of people have been reading this and everyone's been talking about it and saying that it's been absolutely amazing. What I learned though, not only was the fact that she dealt with so much, but I did also learn that the relationship she had with certain people, especially Miranda Cosgrove and Ariana Grande, I didn't really know what their relationship was. I did not know that Jeanette and Miranda had a really close friendship for many years, even after iCarly. And the fact that when they were getting ready to do the iCarly reboot, that Miranda obviously had reached out to Jeanette, and Jeanette was like, yeah, no, for my mental health, that's not something I want to do. And just really how respectful that Miranda was about that, because I remember that when the iCarly reboot was coming out, how everybody was really disappointed about the fact that Jeanette was not doing it, and nobody really knew why. They just had thought that, Jeanette maybe had got too big for her britches. But the reality of it was that she just did not feel comfortable doing that with all of the things that she had gone through in the process of filming iCarly, which she talks about at length over the course of this memoir, because it was a huge piece of her career. Like, she spent years on this TV show and had spent years dealing with the abuse that she had from not just her mother, but from Dan Schneider as well, and all of the things that she had gone through. And then when it came to Sam and Cat, learning about the fact that she disdained Ariana for many, many years because of the fact that Ariana at the time was growing to be this very big pop star. This was like just before she had really hit her stride with music. And Jeanette was really upset about the fact that she felt like she couldn't get the same kind of treatment that Ariana was getting, and how unfair it seemed. And again, suffering at the abuse of her mother and Dan Schneider and various other people over the course of her life. So I think that in terms of learning something new, it really just opened my eyes to truly what had actually happened to this poor woman, and why it was so important for her to come out with the story of what happened to her, because a lot of people had been questioning for years what had happened to Jeanette, especially after Sam and Cat. What had happened to her to where she kind of just seemed to have disappeared. And so I feel like while we didn't necessarily need to know everything that had happened, I do appreciate Jeanette's candor and her willingness to share the things that she had gone through, because honestly, when it comes to child stars in Hollywood, there's a lot of abuse that can happen over the course of time as they're growing up, and then when they become fully fledged adults, there's even other things that happen that you know, are really important to look at in terms of being an actress and being in Hollywood in general. Is, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family, household, or friend group that you'd like to be a part of. I feel like the last friend group or family that I really wanted to be a part of, honestly, it's the group from A Court of Thorns and Roses. I mean, can I just be Feyre? Like, that's all I want. I just want to take Feyre's place in that world. Like, please? Please? Question 5 is, the colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall-colored spines. Well, I don't really want to take all my books out because they are in my shelves. I don't want to take them out and have to then put them all back on. But, here you go. Here's some fall colors. Red or yellow. More of like a beige, some orange, some black, a little bit of brown in here. Yeah, there you go. Question 6 is, fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story. Last book I read that kind of was more of a first-person perspective in which they're telling a story of things that happened was Extasia by Claire Legrand. I read this in August and I absolutely loved it. It is one of my most favorite books, I think, of the year, and was one of my most anticipated reads of the year 2022. And this tells the story of this young girl that is named Amity, that essentially lives in a very neo-puritanical society where it's post-apocalyptic. It's very reminiscent to those of you that are fans of The Village, like that kind of vibe, and actually pretty much that very same setup. And it's kind of a story of learning about the fact that Amity finds out some very dark information about the town that she lives in, and she decides to join up with a coven that lives outside of the wall of her home. And so then it leads to all kinds of really crazy things, a lot of twists and turns, a lot of things that I was not expecting, and I just loved every second of reading this. It was so fast to fly through, even though it's a fairly chunky book. It was so good. Like, the atmosphere by itself was astounding, and then on top of it, just the ultimate twists and turns, and then by the end of it, having this whole other aspect that you never would have thought would have came up, but made sense given the kind of vibe the story was going for. Just read it. Read this one. It is so good. It is perfect for Halloween time too, because it plays on a lot of horror elements. So if you want a really good freaky story, this is definitely one I would go with, especially because it has all of the witchy vibes. Like, there's literally a coven of witches that are in the story, so pick it up. 7 is, the nights are getting darker. Share a dark, creepy read. So other than Extasia, which was the last really creepy book I read, the creepy book I read before that was My Dearest Darkest by Kayla Cottingham. This is a young adult kind of paranormal, borderline horror kind of story. It's really fun. It's really fast. It was a 4 out of 5 stars for me when I read it in August, but it was like, you know, obviously it was fine. There were some things I didn't care for, but the atmosphere and the very creepiness factor that was involved in the story was really well done, in my opinion. It plays a lot on the idea of cryptids, which if you're a paranormal fan and you're interested in like the creepy stories of like eight-eyed stags, you know, that kind of idea, that plays a huge role in this because it definitely is modern. It plays on the kinds of creepy crawly stories and cryptids and things that like you see like on Tumblr and on Reddit and all these different things. And so definitely would recommend that one for this because of the fact that like it does really feel kind of creepy, and especially when we get to like ahead in the story, it becomes very, very scary because it's like, there's all of this bad stuff happening. What's gonna happen? 8 is The Days Are Getting Colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. Honestly, a lot of YA contemporaries would fit this, but the last one I read that I was so happy and it was so warm and fuzzy was Ophelia After All. This was the first thing I finished in the month of September, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. It was super sweet, and it's a book that really talks about questioning sexuality and really coming to terms with the fact that even if you don't really 100% know what it is you might be attracted to, that's okay, and it takes time. And this is a whole book that is dedicated, I think, to that aspect of any person that has gone through that phase of questioning and trying to figure out what they are, and even if they still might, even if they may have decided that for right now they fit this certain kind of label, if you will, of what their sexuality or gender identity is, it's something that is still going to possibly change over time because everything is very fluid. And I feel like that this is a really good story that really exemplifies that fact that you don't have to always, you know 100% whether or not you are this, that, or the other. It's the fact of you are questioning, you are looking to find out more about yourself, you're looking to explore yourself a lot, which is something that is very needed, especially with the young adult genre. It's important to have these kinds of stories because they're very heartwarming, they're very cute and fast to read, but also they really touch on topics that are important because they are things that as young adults we tend to go through. 9 is Fall Returns Every Year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. Oh, there's so many! There are so many books I'd love to return to soon that are like massive favorites. A lot of them I've actually read very recently, like in the last handful of years. I mean, I reread Beautiful Creatures back in 2018. I reread Morganville back in 2019. I reread Renegades earlier this year. I reread Kissed by an Angel. I reread so many series in the last like 4 years that like I still want to go back and reread again because they're so fun, but I don't know if I could pick because like, especially the series that I've ultimately finished, like there's so many that I would love to go back and reread, but then there's so many series that I have to like actually reread from the beginning and finish because I never did. And so like that's another thing too. So it's like I can't pick, but oh, there's so many good ones. There's so like I want to reread Mistborn. That's another one. Like I read that one over the course of this year and I want to go back and reread Mistborn Era 1. Like it's so good. It's just, oh, there's too many to pick. Question 10 is Fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. I guess that's a bookmark, a drink, I guess, a blanket, maybe. And finally, the last question is spread the autumn appreciation and tag some people. So I am going to tag Bree from Bree Cherie Reads, Brandy from Books with Brandy Shanae, Bree from Locked Booktition, if she has not done this already. Today in this tag, if you guys would like to do this yourself, please feel free to. All the questions will be down in the description for you guys to check out so that you can go do this yourself if you would like to. And let's all celebrate the fact that fall is coming. But anyway, thank you all so much for joining me today. If you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below to subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!